All right, welcome, my nomads. I'm Nigel Sanderson. I got a special guest today. Say what your name is.
Bria Borders.
Me and Bria have been friends for a long time.
Very long.
We're both actors, and I wanted to bring her on the show today to talk about a topic that I wanted to talk about for a long time. The difference between acting on screen and acting on stage. I want to hear your input first.
Oh, goodness. I guess a little background on me first. I did my first stage play when I was in the 6th grade. Fast forward, I did my second stage play when I was in 12th grade, and that is what began really me getting into stage.
Now, when you say your first role was in 6th grade,
yes.
Are we talking about like you ran on stage as a vegetable?
No,
said your name, or did you play like little Tyler Jesus or something?
No,
like,
I actually had a.
That don't count. It don't count.
No, I'm not including any of those types of roles. I did not stand there and hold the poinsettias. No, my first stage play, gosh, forgive me, I can't remember what it was called, but I played a character called Constable Carl, so I was actually casted as male.
Wow. That won't happen in 2021. Nah.
No, it will
They don't
not.
do that no more.
They do. Yes, they will, but that's a whole nother thing. It has to be, the role has to be scripted for something like that. When I got into 12th grade, I did my first take on Once on This Island, where I played what they called a singing storyteller. It was a lot of auditions, so they wanted to include everybody, and I was actually the first vocalist that opened up the show. Took on a couple of other stage plays, and that got me into taking on a minor in musical theatrical arts, where I really learned and understood like placement, directing, cheating, different things. Like I keep talking with my hand like this, but in stage I would never talk with this hand. I would talk with this hand so I don't upstage myself. And
that's called blocking.
Yes, blocking.
Blocking.
Or how before we started,
you don't want to close yourself in front of the camera. You want to open yourself
to
up,
the audience.
You know. So yeah.
And after that I got to take on a couple of different roles. I've done everything from Once on This Island as Mama Yurley, who, if you have never seen the show, she is the supporting character, the supporting lead role to T-Moon. I've done A Streetcar Named Desire. I played Blanche. I've done, by the way, Meet Vera Stark as Anna Mae Simpkins. Just a lot of different shows. The Wiz, I played Eveline. I've played Ursula in The Little Mermaid. So a lot of different things.
So you've been on a couple of my stuff, screen stuff. How does that fare between... Now, of course, my productions weren't professional, but they were screen. You had to learn a script. You had to learn lines, blocking for the camera, learning about how to work for the camera instead of a wide audience. How was that transition?
Oh my goodness, there are so many different things. So I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I recognize I am not the strongest film actress. And I know that about myself. On stage, I can deliver, and I deliver well. But on the camera, there's a couple of different things. The biggest one is you don't get to actually flow. So when you're on stage, say you have a monologue, your monologue can be anywhere between 6 sentences to 20 sentences. You figure out ways to deliver that monologue and deliver it without interruption. And you get to a point where you do it so well because you don't have to ever break your character. Right. Whereas in film, they can say, okay, give me the last 3 words of that monologue. You'll be like, which one? And then he'll say the last 3 words and they'll be like, okay, we're going to stop. Now we're going to go over here to this angle. And you never really get the opportunity to become your character. It's constantly starting and pausing and starting and pausing. Whereas in stage, it's a constant flow. Like we have what we call, can I say the H word up here? Like, is that allowed?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, you can say halibut.
Okay, so we have dress rehearsal, whereas the older community, we identify it as H week. And the reason being is because it's typically sun up to sundown. It can be anywhere from 8 hours to 12 to 14 hours. from the lighting to positioning, blocking, putting on your uniform or your costume or whatever it may be, especially in like really big characteristic shows. Like when I did The Little Mermaid, my skirt was actually 20 pounds alone. And then I had to manage to sing and belt in a corset that was also pulling me down 20 pounds. And then stuff a mic in the back. So you have to get used to all of those different things. Whereas if you have a camera, you don't have to do that because you constantly get a break here and there.
Yeah, you can sit down.
Yeah, you can sit down. You can
go to the crafts table, eat, go on your phone.
But that whole 20,
hey,
12, yeah.
Come back.
That whole 12 hours, you were in full uniform. You are addressed as your name. You are literally your character. And some directors, for example, mine, like Dr. Brown, she was really big on, oh, hey, Blanche, come here. And I was responsible for responding as Blanche, not as Bria, because in the theater, Bria does not exist.
Right.
And I'm sure
that's pretty common. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's pretty common how that is. Like I played a character. To this day, my favorite stage character that I played was Caliban for The Tempest for Shakespeare's.
Show.
Yeah, that was my favorite role, and I think it's just because I grew up liking like Boris Karloff and Doug Jones, people who dress up. They're actors, but they also dress up, put on stuff. Like, I want to do that. I want to put on prosthetics and costumes. So I got to do that with Caliban. They painted my face. I had this like net on and this hood on, and man, was that net thing, costume thing, it was torture because every 5 seconds I'm getting pricked with something. It was killing me, but I had to play that with the character because he's a frustrated character, and I got to do a whole voice and accent. It was awesome. But yeah, you take that experience and all that pain and something that's irritating you, and you put it on the stage. And because the stage is when you start, and you finish till you finish. And
it's straight through.
It's straight through, so you can stay in that character. Even if you're playing multiple characters, you're still going chronologically. You're still in that element.
Doing what you need to do. There's no pausing. It's you get up there, you do your thing, and you leave it. Mm-hmm. There is no recovery. There is no saving other than, like, if I go on stage and say I drop a line, which is like if you forget, and I'm looking at you and in my eyes, because you know me, you're like, okay, she forgot. So you'll say something to lead me into my next line.
Improv, baby.
Improv. It's always the cliche, okay, yes, and. You don't need that in film because they can be like, all right, cut, go look at your lines right quick. And then you'll come back. I don't think I've ever done a single stage show the same way twice. Ever.
And being a film editor, I've edited my own stuff. I edited other people's stuff. You can edit somebody to make them look good.
Yes, you can.
Like a good editor will take. I mean, I'm not gonna say like you could take Joe Schmo off the street and they say their lines all crappy. You can make them look like, I don't know, like Daniel Day-Lewis. But like you can kind of finagle it so they look good. You can do a close up over here, so while they're saying their lines, it sounds good. But and stage, you gotta have that. You gotta be right there.
You
gotta bring it. And like that's the downside about this pandemic. I was like, man, because my plan was to get back on stage after film school, and then I gotta fix that. But my plan was to get back on stage after film school, and then the pandemic happened. I was like, man, I miss it because to me, stage acting is like back when I used to play basketball. Like I'll be on the court and I'm in character and my adrenaline's pumping and I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. Even if somebody messes up their lines, you help them out. You say something, or I might miss a line, I might drop it, you finagle it. It's kind of like a synergy. Everybody's working together. When everybody's on their A game, it's like you a team and y'all scoring. Like with film acting, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna say I don't like it. It's just different. Like
it is different.
Screen acting, it's like what I do. I don't do method acting. Like I don't become the character. What I try to do to help me when I'm acting on screen is I try to stay kind of like in the temperament of what the scene is going to be or I'm going to do. Like I try to stay in that kind of temperament. I'm not going to be like, oh, call me this, but I'm just going to like trying to keep my headspace in there, even though, because 9 times out of 10, I'm also directing when I'm on screen. But I try to stay in that temperament, kind of. But I love stage acting, man. You can't beat it.
Stage acting I have a special type of passion for stage acting.
Yeah.
I'd love to be an excellent film actor, but it wasn't until I started doing film with you that I was just like, I don't really know if this is really my calling. Like, one thing for me is I've always wanted to be on Broadway. That is my thing. I want to be on Broadway. And to film, just to give you an idea of what the differences are, film is different based off of the definition of the colors, based off of the definition of like how I may present. I may look big and obnoxious and large on film, and you're like, oh my goodness, she needs to sit down, she needs to calm down, she's doing too much. But as far as stage, it's supposed to be big because I'm meant to be seen from the top of the balcony. My makeup is meant to be seen from the top of the balcony. Something like on stage, if you go and you see, and we'll use Tyler Perry, for example. He was really good about using particular colors for different things. And one thing that people look at the color white and they say, oh, white means purity.
Not necessarily.
But not necessarily. And it comes through in film. And if you really think about different things in film, on stage you might think that white means pure or natural and flat. But in film, it comes across as a person who's lost their identity. And those are the two different things. And understanding the colors of what the show is and understanding the plot and settings. Whereas on stage,
so you're getting into a whole different realm.
Am I getting too deep?
You're getting into color theory. Like,
am I getting too deep?
Yeah. You might. That might be a whole different podcast.
Okay.
Because like with me, like I color my own stuff. I edit and I color my own stuff. So it's like I know like I might manipulate a color in a scene so that I can evoke a certain emotion for my characters. But that's a whole different.
So then setting back, I'll talk about setting. In film, you can use a bunch of different ones. And on stage, you have one shot to kind of make it work. And you have to make all of those colors, that setting and everything, especially on things that don't have the funds to change the scenery and stuff.
Yeah.
You have to hit it one time, and that has to be what lasts and makes sense for 3 hours.
And the one thing about stage, it's kind of off topic now that you say it. For example, like if you watch Hamilton, like that stage is pretty bare. They use lighting, they use props.
They use costume.
Like you can tell by how they're standing, if there's a chair over there, if the lighting's different, that's a different setting. That's a different scene. Like you got to be creative. And so, but that's a whole different topic. That's all about stage lighting and everything. But basically, it annoys me when people don't understand. There is a big difference between stage acting and film acting. Film acting, 9 times out of 10, you're doing it out of order based on the availability of a location, based on the availability if the script is done for that scene, or scheduling for somebody else. Maybe they can't be there. So you're not doing it in order. You got to look at the schedule, like, oh, we're doing this scene. Sometimes, a lot of times, actually, people do the last scene first.
Yes.
And then they do the rest of the scenes. Even like action movies, they'll usually do the final fight at the beginning of production. Then they'll go into doing everything else. You know, I think it was it Donnie Brasco or Serpico or Al Pacino? That whole movie was shot. It was shot in order, but backwards, just so that they could shave his hair, his facial hair, so he can look older and everything like that. I mean, younger through each scene. But yeah, it was filmed backwards, so it's kind of crazy to think like you're like playing to something that's not in order, and you still have to be in that headspace. And even if you were to be in a play where it was like, hey, this scene actually happens after or whatever, you know that going into it. You have like 6 months of rehearsal, 6-7 months. You know,
I've never been fortunate enough to have 6 or 7 months of rehearsal.
Yeah, true.
In my experience, I had between 1 and 3 months to nail down between an hour and 3 hour show. But
pretty much, yeah.
You know,
the lower budget circuit, you always get like 1 to 3 months, and usually for stuff like that, you're doing like well-known plays. It's those original plays that you're like, oh, come on, bro.
Exactly. And I don't know about anybody else. I think I don't know if you've done this before, probably, but I've also done multiple shows at once, and
I've done multiple films at once, but not multiple stage.
And it's
shows at once.
completely different having to know where to leave this character over here versus leaving this character over there. And I honestly believe if I had to do multiple films at once, I would be so confused.
Really?
I believe that I would be so confused. And
That's funny because for me, I've done multiple films at once, but I've never done multiple stage acting. I feel like doing multiple stage shows would just like my brain would be melted away.
yo, it's definitely fried.
But like,
It's fried.
but like when I do multiple screen stuff, it's nothing. It's like, oh, Saturday I'm doing this film, Sunday I'm doing this film. Oh, that's not a problem, you know. But nah, I wouldn't think that. I would think it would be easier to do multiple film stuff than multiple like stage stuff. That's crazy. That's hard.
I mean, that's subjective to me, and I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just more educated in stage, but for me, it's like I know that when I walk into this play, that on the schedule we're doing scenes 1 through 3. I just got to tighten up on scene 1 through 3. That's for this show. I know as soon as I walk in where I'm sitting, there's my little X on the floor, whatever, and I'm just gonna go back and forth in character. Even if I don't get all of my lines right, I'm gonna be in character. Once I go to my next show, most of the time the shows are nothing alike. I mean, you can do, let's say, The Little Mermaid, and we did
Streetcar.
yeah, like Streetcar, and
Those are like totally
two different things.
Yeah.
Blanche will never try to be an octopus ever. If you don't know what Streetcar Named Desire is, the most telling statement of that is Stella.
Yeah.
Stella. That's the big thing in Streetcar Named Desire. And from like I'm not even going to get into all of that. There's a lot of different things, but understand they are two different beasts. And even going back a few years before, I actually saw The Color Purple on Broadway.
Oh, that must have been awesome.
Oh my goodness, it was beautiful. And when I saw it, I actually got a straight on experience with seeing a film actor versus a stage actor. And I had Jennifer Hudson and Cynthia Erivo.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Cynthia,
And Jennifer Hudson, yes, she's done a lot of professional work. Cynthia Erivo has too. But when it comes to the stage, and this is just from what I know about their backgrounds, in that aspect, Cynthia is actually the professional. This was her game.
Yeah, because
And
hasn't she done stuff before?
She is.
Stage
She
stuff?
is huge.
Just for people who are not Googling who this is, Cynthia Erivo was recently Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
And in the movie that no one saw. But yeah.
But she is a big time stage actor where if you ask me, and I'm a little biased, stage actors are actually better actors. Once they master film, they are better because they can do different types of imagery and
You mean once they master stage?
excuse me, stage actor once they master film. The other way around.
So master film first, then be a stage actor.
No, master stage and then try to become film. I
Okay.
don't know.
You were saying
I might be a little
you kind of
biased,
confused
but
me. But no,
becoming stage, if you can understand stage, because there's no recovery and you can figure out that happy medium for film, you can become a dynamite film actor.
That's what I think too, even though I'm more of a film guy. Every time I talk, that's what I believe too, because I'm actually a film guy. But I do believe, in my experience, you should learn the how do you say, like the older way of acting on stage first, because you learn about blocking,
particulars.
you learn about character, and you learn
Interaction.
and then that blocking that you learn about how never to turn your back on the audience, you can translate to, oh, which camera am I working with? Oh, so we're working with this camera? All right, so I'm going to make sure I don't close myself off to that camera. Like, you can always translate that to film, but, man, like, you get that down in stage. It's like, when you actually do, like, start to finish a stage play, it's like, man, like, that was like your Super Bowl. That was like your playoffs right there. Like, you actually start to finish, like, You knew your lines. You came in. You knew your cues. Because that's different, too. With stage, you need to know your cues. You need to know everybody else's lines. So you know when to come in.
I'm so glad you said that. Go ahead.
Because on film, you could be like, yo, you supposed to walk in, bro. All right, I'm gonna just chop it up and post. Nah, in stage, you'd be like, yeah, I said, da-da-da. Oh, my bad. Oh, it's my turn to come out.
And stage it's not always a line that's your cue. Sometimes your cue might be when the blue light goes from blue to red. Yeah. And you need to be on your toes and paying attention. And the whole point is for, even if everybody on the stage knows that there was a mistake, nobody in the audience should. It has to be that smooth. It has to be that connected. It is so big. And that's why a lot of stage people have like cast parties and stuff like that, because they get the opportunity to really know people at their
feel
rawest
each other out
and understand. I mean, even I had my wisdom teeth taken out when I was doing one of my shows, and
remember I did that too. Remember I was
definitely did.
They was like, "We're not." I was like, "Man, I'm at home bleeding in my mouth because I had my wisdom teeth pulled."
I did, and I showed up, and my director, Mary, at the time, she did all the speaking roles, but that was my opportunity to show everything through my being, instead, because I wasn't able to talk, so I got to focus on something else, which was perfect because the show was about being in a story anyway. So it actually helped me as a stage actress.
Yes, because when I was doing my acting classes, my favorite class was stage movement. And in that class, my professor, Miss Corinne, she wouldn't allow us to, she wouldn't allow us to say So
exactly.
In that class, she was like, in this class, when you raise your hand and you answer, you have to take 3 seconds. Before you say before you say that, you better not have any pauses, you better not have any and you would be surprised how hard it is to answer somebody and not take a pause to process or to say because your initial reaction, because the way we're raised in school, when we raise our hands, you gotta blurt that answer out. But she was like, no. All right, so you'd be like, oh, no. She'd be like, no, you didn't take your 3 seconds. You gotta count it. She'd be like, she'll count it out loud for you. 1, 2, 3, and he'd be like, "Oh, well, what I was going to say is, and then she'd be like, "Oh no, start over." 1,
and 2. That comes from the whole theory of when children think about when we're really, really young, and kids are like, and
diarrhea.
A lot of people will say, "Hold on, pause, stop, think about what you're about to say. Okay, now talk to me." It's the same exact thing. And we don't realize it. We were started doing these different things so young, and we don't even think that it's something that we have to constantly do throughout the day.
And she would say that too. She was like, I'm going to take you back to when you were a kid. And we had to come to class after our first day of class. We had to come in all black. And she, when we came to class, we had a table full of the comedic del art masks. Acting mask, and she was like, you have to choose a mask and you have to choose a character for that mask, and that's who you're going to be for the rest of the semester.
It's so funny because
I love that class, man.
As soon as she said all black, I said, oh gosh, I wore black. I did it again. I did the stage thing, being flat and being bare. And the stage bareness is black.
Yep.
I'm, other than my shawl, I'm in all black. My face is, I don't do a whole bunch of the different colors of the lip. That's a film thing.
Exactly.
On stage, if you're not to be in like a big character, you're supposed to be flat.
Yep.
And what's another? Oh, look, now I'm doing it. We do it more often than we think we do. Years ago, Aquila and the Bee came out, and I'm not sure if this is true. This is what I heard as a rumor. This is what was rumored to be true. And she was doing her audition, and they said that the one thing that she did that the other auditioners didn't do is when they had her acting as if she was reading off of the board, she pulled one of these type numbers as if she was reading off of the board, which to us as stage, that's normal. You're creating the image of as if you're really doing it. somebody who has not had to create imagery because the imagery has been created for them will not even realize that they're not actually scrolling across a board that's not there. Mm-hmm. Different things like that.
Exactly, because like in that class, it was all about movement. So the first few classes, we couldn't have any dialogue. We had to create a character through our physical bodies.
Ooh,
so we
rough.
did yoga in that class, and she taught us how to move our bodies. And she was like, "This is your instrument, your nose. I need to know who you're talking about. Since you can't talk, you're going to have to learn how to point with your nose. And if you didn't do it right, she would stop you, correct you, take your 3 seconds, readjust yourself." She was like, "No, not this. You got to point like this." And, it really helped me learn how to create a character from the inside out, because you really got to think about and she'd be like, "What's your character?" You'd be like, "Oh, my character's this," or it might be like an older person. She'd be like, "Oh, well, old people, they usually stand like this, because think about it, your muscles are in atrophy, so you're going to," and I was like, wow, she's just like, this is amazing. Like, through her, I learned the physicality of a character and how to bring it to life, not just with your voice, because that was always my thing. I was always good at doing voices. I was always doing impressions. But the physicality is what I learned how to really breathe life into a character through that class, and I love that class.
And I'm so glad you said that, because you think about, I can't speak for people who are big on film, but you're stage actors, and I can tell you right now, stage actors, when we watch a movie, we watch the extras. The people in the background who are creating the entire scene, who don't have any dialogue.
I watch the extras
who
too.
are doing, and you can always tell, like,
I'm
when
like,
it's
yo, he messing up the
forced.
movie, bro.
He's messing up the movie. Like, I always wanted to be that person. You see that person all the way in the back, and they're holding the martini glass, and it's just that top corner. That's me. And you're going to know it's me every time, just because of how I hold my hand and how I position my hands. Right. And you'll say, "Oh yeah, that's Bria's hand."
That's why I don't fault Ben Affleck for snapping on an extra on his set of Argo when he was shooting Argo. It was like, "Get off my set. You're going to mess up my movie." Because, man, when it comes to film, everything on that screen has to be for that screen.
Exactly.
If you're like like that, the trailer when it came out for Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, and everybody was reacting to a bomb that was coming down. One guy looked up, smiled, then put his head down. That's all the internet talked about. No one cared about anything. Nobody was like, "Yo, I was going to see that movie." Everybody was like, "Yo, did you see that extra who was acting out of character?"
And the internet is fast. They see everything that you think you don't see.
Exactly.
I mean, think about even what's gone on recently, where the little memes and whatnot have come out, and the people are like, "Dad, y'all notice that?"
Yeah.
Like, you noticed that? I'm sitting right there and I didn't even see it. And
like with the Mandalorian, that episode where they saw the guy texting on his phone in the background. I'm like, dang, even I didn't see that. I might be biased because I'm a Star Wars fan, so I was engrossed in the show. But I was like, dang, that's crazy. Y'all be seeing coffee cups on the table and Game of Thrones. Like, dang, when I'm immersed in something, I don't see it. So I'm kind of biased with that.
And I'm because I have that stage and that theater in me, and understanding how it is to direct. I am the first person. My mom will be like, "Bria, how did you notice that?" I was like, "I can't help it." Like, and a lot of the times things are purposely placed for you to see it, to to be able to understand what's happening. What's the movie? What's her name? Janelle Monáe. Mm-hmm. There was a movie that she just did.
Antebellum.
And a big thing, at least in my household, that got missed was when she stayed in the hotel and the door said the Jefferson Suite. People who don't understand what one antebellum means and what the whole idea is with Jefferson in antebellum missed that whole thing. I knew exactly where that movie was headed as soon as I saw that.
Well, bellum is war.
Yes.
For war.
Antebellum is before the war.
Before, yes. I was thinking after.
Right.
Yeah, before
understanding the words and stuff like that, and without
it's Latin,
getting,
baby. You see that? It's Latin. Black excellence. Come at me. All right, go ahead.
No, and I'm understanding the whole situation with Thomas Jefferson.
Yes.
Without going too deep.
Yes.
If you don't know, research it.
If you don't know, Google it, man. Like, what are you doing? You got the same resources as us, so come on. It's 2021.
As soon as I saw that, I understood exactly. I may not have known exactly what was going to happen, but I understood the angle that it was going to take.
Right. No spoilers because I didn't see it, though.
Absolutely not, which is why I didn't go into it that deep.
Exactly.
You see?
But I already know from what you said with Jefferson and Antebellum, I know where that's going.
See?
And that's the thing with film, because everything on stage is so big, but everything on film is so small. You have to do little things like that. Like, say, the title's Antebellum, you put Jefferson's Suite on there. It's like, oh, I know what's about to go down.
Okay.
I have an idea of what happened because I know what character she plays in the movie. I have an idea of what happens.
And the lead role being a black female, black American female. So.
Yeah, so I have an idea what happens because I know what happened with Jefferson back in the day. But that's a whole different story. But and that's another thing too that's so very different when it comes, because you've done it, directing for stage as opposed to directing for film is way totally different. It's completely like I like to direct as a filmmaker. I don't ever want to direct a stage play. I don't. I see
directing
what they got to do.
Stage is so hard.
I'm like, no.
Because
I'm gonna get tired of saying bigger. I can't hear you. I can't hear you because I was that guy. I was at my first show. I'd be like, yeah, man. They're like, Nigel, bigger. I'm like, all right, my bad. Nigel, I can't hear you. Like, I had to learn to project. I was such a soft-spoken person, and then I had to learn how to project more. I was like, how do you do that? How people do that? And then I found out. I was like, oh, that's how you do it and everything.
And yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing. And a perfect example is, I don't know if they saw this or not, but when we were getting started, we were setting up. He had to keep turning my mic down. And a lot of that is because being on stage, when I first started stage, we were not funded enough where we got to have all of the mics.
Exactly.
The lower budgeted places like schools and community theaters, we don't have all of those different mics and whatnot. We have a floor mic, a floor mic, a floor mic, or a floor mic, a floor mic, and a floor mic. And your job is to make one of those three mics pick you up. I was very fortunate because naturally singing, I always had a very big voice. But speaking, now people will look at me and say, Bria, why are you shouting? And I don't mean to. It's just, that's how I speak. And another thing is that on stage, a person can mumble like this and you can understand exactly what's coming out of their mouth and da-da-da-da-da-da.
You mean on film?
Or, excuse me, yes, on film.
You keep switching.
This is how you know. You can tell where my bias is. On stage, the big thing is enunciation.
Yes.
You have to make sure that the person on the last row with the hearing aid can understand everything that's coming out of your mouth.
Yes.
Every single thing.
And when I was doing The Tempest, when I was playing Caliban, I actually played 3 different parts in that, but my main part was Caliban. We were doing a experimental play in the form that they used to do in Shakespeare, where they would just set up anywhere. So we were going around the college at UD, performing on stages, performing in dorm rooms. I mean, not dorm rooms, but dorm lounges. We was in the cafeteria, so you had to enunciate. You had to grab people's attention, and we also had to interact with the audience,
as we would call breaking the fourth wall. And
so I was Caliban. I was a creature, and I was climbing on all fours when I was in better shape, and I was messing with people, grabbing people's stuff, like just being crazy and stuff. Like, you gotta enunciate, you gotta grab people's attention, and so that's where you gotta learn your true instrument, which is your voice. Like, I didn't start wearing scarves until I became a stage actor. And I realized this is my instrument. I need to protect it. And so now, even though I hate scarves with a passion, I wear scarves when it's cold outside.
It's funny because I always wear a scarf, and today I have on a turtleneck. Like, and that's just what we do. Like, we cover up, we keep different things.
Yep.
We stay away from a whole bunch of sodas. I know I asked for a Pepsi earlier, but
I hate soda.
I don't really drink soda. I like Pepsi. I will do a lot of that. I will probably take down between 84 to 120 something ounces of water a day. Just because it helps strip all the mucus. If I put anything in it, it's going to be lemon. A lot of, not trying to out the older stage acting community, but by older I mean 21 plus. But when
That's you too.
and I am guilty.
That's both of us.
And I'm guilty of this. Particularly for musicals, we will have a shot of tequila before we go on stage.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
And I'm gonna tell you why. It's not like, oh, we're trying to loosen it up and we're trying to feel everything or whatnot. We use tequila because tequila actually can help strip the mucus and everything that can build up. We'll stay away from things like dairy products that'll help build up all of that mucus because it helps us to project. It keeps us from sounding phlegmy when we're on stage. So
I could never do that simply because alcohol makes me tired. When you go on stage, you got to have a lot of energy, and I can't be on stage wanting to take a nap. So I never did that. One of my things that I do to warm up is because I'm a stiff person is I just dance. I do the Harlem Shake. That's always been my thing. Even to this day, before I do film, I usually do like a Harlem Shake dance.
I do remember you doing that back in the day.
Yeah,
like just in the wings, like.
Remember backstage, I was like, like that wakes me up, that loosens me up, and then I'm ready to go. I'll do a little dance, and then I'm ready to go. And then when I'm backstage, I don't go on my phone because I need to stay.
I don't. I
stay in it.
Right here, my phone is on silent.
Yep.
Do not call me.
Don't
not text me.
You can call me, but I ain't gonna answer, bro. So
you're right. I mean, you can call and text all you want, but I'm not going to see you until after I walk out and meet the people who showed up for the show. Like you're not going to see me until I can completely break character.
Right.
When I have played evil characters, this might sound terrible, but another stage actor will understand this. If I end up playing a villain, I go on the stage with the mindset of this is a child show where I'm playing a villain. If a child does not cry, I did not do my job.
There you go.
I don't want to make children cry. I love children. But if I do not make a child cry when I walk out and they want to run the opposite direction, like when I play Ursula, my own, I call her my niece, but my own niece was terrified. Terrified.
You did your job.
I mean, terrified of me.
I usually play villains myself. They're so fun. If I don't get a shock face, I ain't do my job.
Like
I remember my first acting class, my final project, I did a monologue from The Dark Knight as a Joker. And I was like, I'm going to do this because I can do the voice. I'm going to be the Joker. I remember I came into class with the makeup on, with the costume on. I did the scene and somebody was like, I was like, yes.
Yes.
I'm an actor. Like after that, and ever since that, I just love playing villains. And if I don't get that shock face or I don't get somebody saying, "Oh man, I hated you during that," I didn't do my job.
Best one.
I love it, man.
Oh my goodness, the best one is when people say, "I oh my goodness, you were disgusting. I hated you." Times when I've been on stage and I popped out and I did one of these type things, and you can hear the person on the third row, talking about, "Oh my god, oh gosh," like, "Oh my goodness."
I remember my family came to a show one time. My mom, my dad, and I was playing a character that I made who was schizophrenic, and he had split personality, and his other personality was very, very vulgar. My parents never heard me curse before. My mom brought people from church to the show. I was like, "Mom, why you do that?" And she was just like,
yes, that's another thing.
I saw her face in the audience. She was like, "Oh God," because I was cursing, I was carrying on, and then I would have to snap back to the calm, collected personality. Then I would go to da, 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 da.
And you have to be able to flip just like that, because
flip
again,
like that.
There is no recovery time.
Exactly.
There's no recovery. You have to go from here to there in a split second. Streetcar Named Desire is Blanche. There is a particular scene in there.
Blanche.
Huh?
That's one thing. I don't think I could have watched you play that. I'm too close to you for that.
And my mother cried. My father cried. Yeah. And if you haven't, for lack of better terms, there is actually a scene in A Streetcar Named Desire.
Yes, I can't.
Background of the show, at least the version I did. It is about this lady who ends up going, and she comes from money. She ends up going and staying with her sister and her husband. Her sister's pregnant at the time. She's upset because she actually lost her husband in a very tragic way. Fast forward, while her sister's in the hospital actually delivering her babies, her sister husband takes advantage of her. And even though her sister believes her, she refuses to leave her husband, and she ends up going into a crazy house. I remember telling my director if I had to do one more weekend of that show, I needed therapy.
Yeah.
It was that serious.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
I actually was going to play that part. What's his name again?
Stanley.
I was going to play that part, but then I had to drop out for scheduling conflicts back in college. But, man, I wanted to play that part so bad. But, yeah, and then when you came and told me that day, like, oh, I'm playing Blanche, I was like, no way.
It was rough.
I'm probably going to miss that one.
And he did, and he told me that. I remember my dad saying he had to snap out of it because he had to remember that it was just a play.
Right.
And in the play, it's like, again, imagery. We didn't have the actual scene of you seeing my character be taken complete advantage of, but you knew what happened. She was very good about making it so he pushed me down. He pinned me down. And even though there was space, you could see him on top pinning me down. The lights went off and I did a scream. Doesn't take a genius to know what happened.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right. Do you specifically like playing villains?
Villains?
Or unsavory characters, let's say.
Yes and no. I like playing the villain if it's a character's character, if that makes sense.
Yes. The only time I will play a villain that's not a character's character is if it's a kid's show. If it's meant for kids. Then I can be twisting the,
Correct. Like, it has to be a character's character. And maybe that's what I mean. It's like, it has to be makeup and costume. But I also don't really want to, and this is another thing you'll get into if you ever go into the stage route. Eventually you'll learn your list of, I call them the list of morals. The things that you will do and the things that you won't do no matter what. For me, one of the things I'll never do is nudity. I just won't.
Facts.
Like, I just won't. Some people are okay with that. I'm not.
I'm not either.
I'm just not. Another thing is, I will never, and I have a potty mouth, I will never say GD.
Really?
Never. You will never hear me say GD.
I've heard you say worse things.
But you will never. And think about, and he and I have been friends for like what, 20 years now?
Yeah.
And if you really think, you have never heard me say it.
Nah.
I've had scripts where they've given it to me and it said that. And I pulled the director aside and I said, I will not say this. I'll say the D word, but I will not put G in front of it. Ever.
Not even on a Sunday?
Not even on a Sunday. Especially not on a Sunday. If I'm out of my wits, you will never hear me say GD.
Interesting.
Nope.
Is there a different word or phrase that you would never say?
Of that?
No, just in general. Like, you'll never say GD. Is there a different phrase or word you would never say?
Nope, probably not.
Really?
Which is interesting because to somebody else that doesn't seem that harsh, but to me that's like the harshest thing that you can say.
I don't think there's anything I want to say.
Really?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that is something I
There's a lot of things I wouldn't do.
There's quite a few things I want to do. I'm not. Personally, earlier we were talking about method acting. I'm not going to smoke any crack to try to figure out what it's like so I can portray the perfect crackhead.
I'm not going to cut a thing in my face so just because my character has a cut on it.
Right. Like, there's certain things I'm not doing, and a lot of that is because I've done enough stage acting where I know how to become without becoming.
I want to say this story. There's a story for Marathon Man with Laurence Olivier and Sean Penn. Okay. I believe it's Sean Penn. Was it Sean Penn? No, it wasn't Sean Penn. It was Dustin Hoffman, I think.
I can't say because I've never seen it, but
it's
as soon as you said Sean Penn.
It's an older movie, so it was either Dustin Hoffman or Sean Penn. So Laurence Olivier has this scene where he tortures either Sean Penn or Dustin Hoffman, and that actor, whoever it was, they stood up all night. They stayed up all night. They drank a lot of coffee or whatever just to stay up, and he was like, "Yeah, we're ready to do this." And Laurence Olivier was like, "Why'd you do that?" And he was like, "Cause I need to make it look real. I need to, come across as such and such." He was like, Laurence Olivier was like, "Son, it's acting. Why don't you try it sometime?" And on that note, all right, my nomads.
Oh, I had something to say. Okay.
What you gonna say?
Because I just thought about something else, the acting thing. One thing, this is the last thing, and then we can go. But unless it's a character like a maid who is actually progressing the movie, like for example, The Help, Octavia Spencer and Octavia Spencer in The Help, I would do something like that. But don't put me in a role where somebody's going to decide that they're going to, oh yeah, I'm going to act, and then they spit in my face. Because please believe.
Nah, man.
Please believe
Spitting
if you spit in my face.
Nah,
there's going to be an
spitting in the
charge.
face.
Like,
I don't care if you're acting, if you're mad at me or whatever. You will never spit in my face because I'm just gonna have a knee jerk reaction.
Out the dirt. No.
Yeah.
No.
There's phrases, there's words and actions like spitting that I just have a knee jerk of hitting you.
Spit at my feet if you feel like you must spit. I'm still have words, but spit at my feet. But if you spit in my face,
nah, I can't. It's gonna be a problem.
See, now it's a good time to cut the camera.
Yeah, we gonna cut the camera because we're getting hot up in here. So catch us next time, my nomads. Peace. Be creative.